Hi, folks. Welcome to Crisco's Corner. MSNBC's host Katie Tur demands, is this fair after judge finds Trump bans him from business in New York? Now, let's see what Kevin O'Leary has to say. Remember him from Shark Tank. He's a very, very rich man, an incredibly successful businessman, knows real estate and how bank loans work and assessments inside out his entire career, saying this entire thing makes 0 cents. 0 cents. Listen what he has to say, and he's exactly spot on.
And let's leave out politics and just talk about what happens in real estate development anywhere. So if you're a developer and you've got a building on a block anywhere in America and it's worth, let's say, $500 million, and you want to build a building right beside it, you go to the bank and say, this building is worth $500 million. I'd like to borrow a construction finance loan against this asset, and I want you to tell me it's worth $500 million too. And the bank negotiates with you and says, well, no, we think it's worth $400 million, and you fight it out. You're always trying to show your assets in the brightest light with the sunshine you could possibly determine for them. You want them to be worth the very most, because you're only going to get a 40 or 50% loan to value, as it's called. Then you borrow that money. In the case of a $500 million asset, maybe you get $250 million, and you build a new building with a construction finance loan. And so that's what this case is all about. And by the way, forget about Trump. Every single real estate developer everywhere on earth does this. They always talk about their asset being worth a lot, and the bank says no. And that's just the way it is. So in this case, when I'm trying to figure out, and I'm not pro or con, or I don't care about the politics, who lost money? Nobody. The bank got paid back the construction finance loan, and a new building was built. And if you're going to sue this case and win, you got to sue every real estate developer everywhere. This is all they do. This is what they do all day long, every day. So I don't think this thing will ever survive appeal, regardless of what the fine is. This doesn't even make sense. Now, look, I know Trump's got a lot of problems in other indictments and everything else, but this, if you're a real estate developer, you're watching this, you're saying, what is this? This is ridiculous.
Or to pay $350 million in damages and barred from running his business in New York for 3 years, and also his children, if I'm not mistaken. When you have one of the hosts on MSNBC who call Trump everything from the German chancellor in the 1940s, can't say the name because we'll screw up the algorithm, to Mao Zedong, Benito Mussolini, and all the rest, and then you have a host on MSNBC say, wait a minute. Is this really fair? Then you know you've gone too far. For those of you, I'll give you a brief outline. For those of you that don't know what happened, he's being sued by my attorney general. I live in upstate New York, way away from New York City, thank God, for lying on applications, or they put in what they think your properties are worth, and he's trying to get loans on them from years ago. And he even said at the first page of his proposal to the banks, this is what I think the properties are worth. Do your own due diligence. Now, under New York state law, they're saying he lied, even though no one was harmed. The insurance company wasn't harmed. They got their money. The banks got their money. In fact, some of the loans are paid off early. They were happy as hell and came to court and said so. This is a bench trial, no jury. So a lot of that stuff wasn't admissible in evidence, but the testimony was. And this judge, of course, is a Democratic, progressive Democrat operative. You get the point. The point is under New York state law now, if they think you lied on a application to borrow money, even though it's your opinion, and you tell the lending institution, hey, I think this is what it's worth, do your own due diligence and get your own people to check it out, you're still breaking the law. Just like the law that had sexual abuse taking off the 7-year call for the statute of limitations to make it 20 so they go after Trump and get $38.3 million when he did absolutely nothing wrong with no evidence. It's a kangaroo jury and a kangaroo court. Now that's the background. Let's listen to what the MSNBC pundit has to say.
That's not the burden. You don't have to show that anybody was hurt by your practices. There's nobody you defrauded specifically. But they went back and they looked at cases over 70 years. I believe it's about 150 cases, and found that there was no case where there was a ban on doing business where there wasn't harm shown. So even though the threshold is harm shown, in the past, it has only been used to ban someone doing business when it's been shown that somebody was hurt. Say you're selling cosmetics that are poisoning you. There's somebody that was hurt there. The cosmetics company gets banned. Is this fair to go after Donald Trump like this in this environment?
Yeah, it's exactly right. Is it fair? And of course, he knows the answer is no. That was a rhetorical question. And we want to listen to the other two talking heads because they're going to tell you how fair it was. New York state laws are being changed just to go after individuals. Give you an example. I was a city councilman in the early 2000s, 2000 to 2007. We were barred by New York state law to pass ordinances. Say we went after somebody that had a lot of junk cars on their property. We were barred under New York state law to create ordinances to target certain individual people and property. New York State barred us from doing that. But they can do it whenever they want. I had junk car legislation put in. I was the author. And there was a main number one offender in the city of Binghamton. I couldn't go after him individually because that's making laws that go after certain individuals. It's against New York State law to do that. But they did it for the sexual abuse of 20 years. In fact, that woman's lawyer said she went to Albany and helped them write the law to make it 20 years so they could go after Trump. Remember, lawyers get a third of what the settlement is. Now, that's going to be appealed, but that's besides the point. Let's read on. Host Kathy Tour recently questioned if it was fair that the former president was ordered to pay $355 million in damages and be barred from business in New York by a judge Friday. During a segment of NBC Reports on Friday, Tour mentioned the 70-year existence that the legal rule Judge Arthur Eggleton used on Trump and was never used against someone who is yet to be proven of doing harm to an individual or entity with their practices. Trump's main defense when their argument was that banks and the insurers weren't harmed by his business practices, a point Tur floated during the broadcast while probing the strength of Engoron's decision. Now, here's the thing. Everybody that's come on, all the major networks, well, most of them, are all big-time business people, real estate developers. They said with this law change to go after Trump, every single real estate developer in the state of New York now is now open to criminal charges. If I put together if I own a commercial property, and I used to have one, I sold it in March of 2021. I had a convenience store on a corner of property with a big lot. If I put together a package, what I think the property is worth to a lending institution and request financing or a mortgage, and I think the property's worth $250,000, the bank's not going to go, yeah, John, that's okay, sounds great, we'll loan you $200,000. It doesn't work that way. It never has, ever. The bank does their due diligence in case the loan goes bad. Can we get our money back? And they loan money accordingly. Same with the insurance company. You can't take a $200,000 property in this case that I had and insure it for $1 million. The insurance company would never go along with it. But they're saying that he broke the law because he gave opinions on properties. And some of these properties, like the one in Mar-a-Lago, the judge said was worth what it was worth in the 1980s. It's amazing to me. So even though the threshold is harm shown in the past has only been used to ban someone doing business when it's shown that somebody was hurt. Is it fair to go after Donald Trump like this in this environment is my question. Legal correspondent Lisa Rubin agreed that Tur's assessment of the statute was true, but then punted to former New York State Assistant Attorney General Tristan Snell for more analysis. So we're going to ask the Assistant Attorney General of New York State whether their boss, the Attorney General, is right or wrong. Tur invited him to speak, but he once again said, so tell me, is this fair? The legal standard is whether there's a tendency to deceive. That's what it is. And the legislature in New York made a public policy choice to say there was an important weapon for the AG's office to have to vindicate the public good in this situation. An important weapon for the AG's office to go after somebody that they hate and want put in jail or pay huge fines or put out of business, and this is the only thing we can come up with. There was intention, not just tendency. There was intention to deceive. So if I say my property is worth $200,000 and the bank says it's only worth $190,000, I've broken New York state law. That's exactly what they're saying. It was intention to deceive, to which point Snell noted was more than Engoron needed to punish Trump. NBC contributor Susan Craig attempted to bolster the case against Trump, stating, I think, too, the interesting thing about victims is there were victims here, and they were the banks. They're not just the most popular victims in society. That's a lie. The mortgage holders, the lenders, testified. And so did the insurance companies. The banks were happier than hell to get the loan. It was a golden loan. It was paid off early. He's probably borrowed money from them on other properties. That was countered with Trump's defense, noting that his point that the banks don't feel like they lost. Still, Craig insisted they still did, and that's the conclusion, and that's where we're at today. The banks say we didn't lost, but the Assistant Attorney General says, but they did lose, and that's our conclusion, and that's where we're at today. Even though they said everything was fine. I think the one guy even said, we'd loan money to him on the same terms again, given a choice. That's how secure the loans were. Even though they said there was no harm done. Didn't feel like they lost. They gained tons of interest. God knows how many millions. But the Attorney General said, listen, I am the overseer of New York State. And you say you didn't feel like you were harmed or lost. Well, you're just a little kid. You don't know any better. And I'm your parent. I'm telling you, you did lose. And that's the conclusion I'm coming to. And that's where we sit today. Think about that for a minute. All you progressive liberal Democrats that hate Donald Trump's guts, someday the worm is going to turn. And these laws are going to be pointed at you. We'll see how you like it. And I even have friends in the New York State Assembly, and I can't get a straight answer on this. Look at this. Look at this goofball. How these people get in charge of anything? The guy's a nut, and I meant the judge. The bank said we didn't lose, but the Assistant Attorney General said, I don't care what you say. I say you lost, and that's where we're standing today. These people are scared to death of President Trump. And they're piling up the revenge, I'll tell you. How's that saying go? Revenge is a dish best served cold. Until the next time, God bless, goodbye, and good luck.